Speaking Human.
Welcome to this special interview episode of Speaking Human. I'm Patrick Jebber, Creative Director at Monsters Unlimited.
And I'm Shad Conley, Communications Director at Monsters Unlimited.
Today we're talking to Jacob Farrar, who is the Director of the Taylor Institute for Direct Marketing at the University of Akron. We initially met Jacob through the American Marketing Association, right, Jacob?
Yeah, that is correct. I think that's 3 years ago now.
Yeah. And we wanted to have Jacob on the show to learn a little bit more about some of the interesting things they're doing at the Taylor Institute and to get a general idea of how today's colleges and universities are helping shape the next generation of marketers. So, Jacob, welcome to the podcast. We appreciate taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for the invitation. It's always great to talk with folks about the Institute. Obviously, it's something that, a passion of mine since it is my place of employment. So I love talking about it and love sharing the mission and talk about, how students are growing and developing the skills of successful marketers.
I think what everybody likes to know at the beginning, if you could tell us a little about your background and how you got into marketing.
Absolutely. I think the start, I always was fascinated with radio when I was a kid. I listened to the radio a lot. I know that's kind of passé, especially the fact we're on a podcast. But my senior year, we had a career day. One of the radio stations sent a disc jockey that I listened to. He talked about what his life was like in radio being a disc jockey, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So I wanted to do something in radio, wanted to do something in media. And throughout my college career, that kind of that was always a goal, but it kind of changed based on, different things I learned. And so I think that's really the start of my marketing experience, was listening to this DJ talk about his life as a DJ at a radio station. So I figured, maybe I didn't want to be a DJ and I didn't have a deep voice or whatever. So maybe I'll do radio sales. So that was kind of my career goal, was to be in radio or media sales. And then I found out about advertising, what that meant to study that. So that's kind of what started this whole thing. So my background, I've kind of done what I wanted to do since I was in high school. It's changed a little bit, but it's always been involved with marketing. Most of my career, though, has been more on the direct marketing side, specifically from an operational standpoint for companies that do a lot of direct marketing, so email marketing, call center work. And then the opportunity here to come to the Institute kind of came about. And so that was kind of a career change in the sense of I've never worked in higher education before. But definitely that start was something that, really commenced way back in high school, growing up in a suburb of Seattle, Washington.
That's pretty interesting. It's always, marketing's so diverse. It's always interesting to see where people came into it, the different entrance points to marketing and where that career goes from there.
Yeah, I think there's always been, like, if you were to look at it, there's always been like this main, kind of vein, so to speak, of it, but there's these little deviations. One of the reasons why I chose to come to the University of Akron, specifically the Institute, was when I was in grad school, I really was fascinated with database marketing, analytics. And my first job out of grad school was something not in that. And so that was one of the things that attracted me to this position, was a chance to maybe not necessarily get in, getting my hands dirty in analytics, but at least be closer to it, because that wasn't something that I was doing a lot of with the companies that I was working for prior to coming here. But yeah, there's always that, like I said, that main goal was always there since high school, but I haven't said it's come full circle. I'm not in radio, but nonetheless, it's still hearkening back to those things that I really enjoyed when I was younger.
So how did you come to get involved with the Taylor Institute of Direct Marketing at the University of Akron? How did that sort of relationship begin?
Yeah, so I actually heard about the Institute a number of years ago, long before I got here. The Taylor Institute had partnered with a trade association called the American Teleservices Association. It's now called PACE, the American Teleservice Association, and they were doing some call center compliance certification. And that's what I had been doing at the time. I was working for a company that did a lot of work with call centers, and so I was overseeing all of their compliance efforts. And so this idea of this certification was something that was interest to me, and so I'd heard about the Institute through that. So then fast forward a number of years, at one point in time, the company I was working for had hired outside counsel for some of our compliance efforts. And one of those, or the attorney that we were working with, was a board member of the Institute. And about a month later, she'd sent me an email basically saying, hey, do I know anyone that would be interested in, going back to school, getting an MBA and working at the Taylor Institute? And I said, oh, that's interesting. I don't know about the going back to school because I already had a master's degree. But I said, send me the job description. I can think of someone. And once I saw it, I'm like, wow, this actually sounds kind of cool. It may be something that I want to do. And so that's kind of how it started. I wasn't one of those things where I found it on Indeed.com or Monster.com or anything like that. It just, I knew someone that was, part of the process to help find the new director. And so I sent my resume and I don't know if you guys are aware, but hiring at a university can take a long time. So this was in October of 2012. I didn't get my interview until February of 2013. And I thought they had already hired someone, and that didn't work out. They were actually going to hire someone again just because of the duration of the time. And so I went through the interview process, and I really became excited about, again, as I mentioned before, hearkening back to these things that I've always loved. I love my college experience. And so that's something that really excited me about the opportunity. And then again, going back to like marketing, even though I had a marketing role, I wasn't doing marketing. I was more operations. So there was this draw to go back to the things that I've always loved and liked. And so that's kind of how it started. I went through the interview process, and June of 2013, I was hired as the director.
So speaking of what you loved about college and that college experience, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the Taylor Institute. What do students learn there, and how does it provide that unique educational experience, something that probably pulled you in and made you interested in even becoming a part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those that have gone to school, any university, any college, that wanted to be a professional, let's say a professional in marketing, there's things that are constant. One, we wanted to learn. We wanted to meet people that could help us in our career. And then we probably wanted to get some experience, right? Our goal was to get a job. That's why we go to school, is to get a job. And unfortunately these days, and maybe it was the case, back when I was in college, but really these days it's not enough just to have a degree. And really that's the role of the Institute, is to provide, and I say this all the time, that other stuff, right? The other things that you need to do besides going to class. So if you think about that, it really boils down to two main efforts. One, giving students the opportunity to meet marketing professionals. So what do we do as an institute to bring in professionals, either to speak or to host events in which some really, some networking, pure networking takes place? A student and a professional meet, they talk about, how did you get your job? And the professional may ask, what are you as a student? What are you interested in? So like I said, we want to introduce, students to as many marketing professionals as possible. So that's one of the things that we focus on. And then the second thing is experiential learning piece. So that's the other thing, is you need to not only meet people, but you need to gain experience while you're going to school. And so that's the other kind of main bucket of things that we do here at the Institute is we help students in their efforts to get, opportunities for experiential learning. So, a number of our marketing classes have a project component to it. So we work with the faculty and help them identifying companies that may have an interesting project that the students can work on during the semester in whatever that class is. The other thing, I think this is the best form of experiential learning, is an internship. So doing things to put into practice the things you're learning in your class and in a work environment. So we work with a number of employers and reach out to the marketing community here in Northeast Ohio and actually around the nation to develop opportunities for students to get internships.
And I think that's huge, that experiential piece. I know just from my own experience, like coming out of college, like the education has weight. People are happy to see that, but the experience part and what have you done and how have you got your hands on with things is much more of a talking point. And one of the things, employers particularly are interested in seeing, especially with young new hires.
Oh, absolutely. And, what's cool is, we're part of the marketing department. So the Taylor Institute is part of the College of Business Administration. So we're not our own thing here at the University of Akron. We're part of the College of Business Administration. I work very closely with the chair of the marketing department and as well as with the dean's office. And again, work with some of the companies that, the College of Business has relationships with, but also, start expanding our footprint, talking with companies that, may have heard about the Institute. Maybe they have an employee that worked at the University of Akron, but they may not have direct ties to the University of Akron. So there is a business development element to that. And really it's just to get companies more engaged with the Institute, because when that happens, these things come naturally, either the networking or the internships. It just happens because we all have these universal needs. If you're an employer with Monsters Unlimited, you have two things. One, you know what it was like to be a student, right? You were in that position. And then two, you have the need and the desire to have some really qualified candidates for your organization. So these are things that are universal needs, and really we try to leverage those as many times as possible, and to really expand the footprint. And the benefits that come from that are, obviously very rewarding to students, but also, the College of Business is able to expand the number of companies that are engaged with the college itself.
Yeah, those relationships are big, and that's a great head start for, students as they move into the workforce. Kind of on that same note, so what are some of the key areas of marketing you cover at the Institute, or some of your, top areas of focus?
Yeah, that's a good question. And direct marketing itself has evolved, right? Maybe in 2004 when we started, it was, what we traditionally think of direct marketing in the sense of it was, direct mail or telemarketing, these, direct response television, infomercials. These are the 2004 versions of direct marketing. But I mean, while those are still viable channels, it's really evolved. And really all you have to do is go to a Direct Marketers Association, one of their big conventions. You'll see the number of technology companies that are there. Adobe is a huge exhibitor. So really this idea of direct marketing has evolved. All that to say is the Institute has also evolved with that, right? So not to say that we don't focus on traditional direct channels. We have a call center here at the Institute that students are employed at. They work for the university and do some things for the university, so admissions calling and fundraising, so development, alumni development, that type of thing. But then we've also evolved into some of the more digital channels as well. So we have, and I know Patrick's been involved with our social media agency, Kanga Communication. They're learning about social media and social media marketing. So this is a chance for them to put into practice the things that they're learning in their classes. And we have a marketing and sales analytics class. And within the analytics class, introducing students to Google Analytics, and then also data visualization. So we have licenses for Tableau. So students are learning. Again, this is industry level software. It's not a piece of software that once they graduate, they'll never use it again. I mean, everyone uses Google Analytics. We have a digital marketing class that helps students learn how to use, Google AdWords. We also have a focus group facility for, analytics and insight. That's a key. That's always been a constant with direct marketing is, research and analytics and understanding the behaviors of your customers to target them at a more of a one-to-one basis.
When you talk about social media marketing and the data analytics, what do you find the students most interested in today? Is it because the social media is so big in their lives that they're the most interested in that? Or do you find that students come in and they go, wow, I'm more drawn to analytics and statistics and maybe the insight, the stuff that makes this marketing world churn? What are you finding? What areas of marketing are the students interested in the most?
So I think you hit on something, definitely, digital marketing. The students see that that's where there's jobs in that, right? They're going to migrate to where they know they can get a job. Now, what's interesting is the analytics. Analytics is always going to be a polarizing subject. Like statistics or these types of things, it's not necessarily easy. So you will get kind of two classes of students, one that really gravitate and love it, and then others that are like, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm more on the strategy and the want to get involved more, managing client relationships. But, there's students that definitely are engaged with it. And then those that, I tried it, I get it, I understand it, but it's not necessarily the thing that I want to do for a career. The irony is that's a lot of the companies that, we talk to, they definitely want students that have, those types of skills. And so I try to preach that to students all the time that, hey, focus on what you're learning in this class because it's really going to help you, especially when it comes to, after graduation, when you try to find a job.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's, I think, a lot of what companies are looking for as they bring young people in is on the digital side and on the analytics side. Speaking, obviously you're someone who's working with young people all the time and this kind of next generation of marketers. How would you say this generation's approach to marketing, or even how they think about marketing, is different than maybe our generation or generations before us?
If we wanted to do something on our own, there was really no way to do it. I mean, I knew what TV and radio was, but there was no way I could figure out how to run an ad if I wanted to. But these days, they're using the tools. like, for example, social media. I mean, they understand what Twitter is. They understand what, Snapchat is. They know these tools. They're available to you. Maybe the strategy is something that they need to learn, but the actual tool itself is right there in front of them. So I think that's something that's definitely different in this generation. And I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, you guys are closer to it than even I am, since, that's what you do for your clients.
Yeah, the web's definitely opened up do-it-yourself marketing, as opposed to, I agree with you. I think when I look back to my perspective on kind of marketing and advertising when I was younger, in my teens or college ages, I think of people like in an office, with kind of like boards of different images, pitching different ideas. It seems so removed from where I was, whereas now it's kind of with the web, it's right in front of you.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that it's easy to do marketing. That's not the case, because that's the strategy. That's the piece that the students miss. They know the tool, but they're learning the strategy or how to use those tools effectively. But at least the tools are available at their fingertips. I mean, literally, you can launch an email campaign through MailChimp from your phone. Again, are they doing it well, or are they doing it? I mean, that's the question.
Well, I think that's probably part of the equation that not only students need, which is the strategy, but also companies too. You run into that all the time where companies have so-and-so doing it because they have extra time, but they don't necessarily know the strategy that's involved. And so that they're always looking for that, like, why isn't this working for us? Or how can we do this better? And it's really just comes back to learning the strategy and the marketing principles that help you make those tools work for you, right?
Absolutely. 100% agree.
Yeah. You mentioned Kanga Communications, which is, to let our listeners know, the student-run social media agency at the Taylor Institute. I was hoping that maybe you can tell us a little bit about Kanga and how did that come about? What kind of work do the students do there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came from a university that I did my undergrad at Brigham Young University, and BYU always had a really strong advertising club. They were one of these schools that competed in the AAF, American Advertising Federation, advertising competition every year, and really a strong school. And since I was there, they actually developed a student-run ad agency. And that's not a unique thing. And a lot of schools do it. There's, even here on campus at the University of Akron, we have Design by Nine over in the graphic design department. So this notion or this idea of a student-run agency is not new. We didn't pioneer anything like that. But what we wanted to do was develop something like that here at the Institute. Again, going back to what I was mentioning at the very, very beginning, experiential learning. We wanted to give students the chance to execute a campaign. If you think back to your marketing classes or classes that you had where you did a presentation, often you would present, here's our book, here's our paper, this is what we think you should do, X company that sponsored the project. But you never really knew if they implemented anything. I would say 90% of the time they didn't. They maybe looked at it and said, hey, this is a good idea, or we were already thinking of this. So, thank you for your efforts this whole semester, but, we're probably not going to implement anything that you just presented to us. And that, for me as a student, was frustrating because I worked a long time. There were sleepless nights and, a whole semester on a project and never really knowing if what we had done worked or not. So that was really the idea of Kanga Communication, was a place in which students can manage and execute campaigns. I didn't know what those campaigns would be, but we had a lab for social media. And let me back up for a second and say that the Institute is kind of built around these, what we call our applied learning laboratories. And I mentioned them. We have an analytics lab. We have a video production lab. We have our focus group lab. So we have these rooms that are set aside for specific, applied learning. And so I thought, well, we already have a space. Let's come up with a plan to create this agency so students can bring on clients, they can do work for clients, and give them the opportunity to execute. And that's exactly what happened. That first semester I started, so this is back in that fall semester of 2013, we developed kind of a structure, a shell of what we wanted to do. We didn't have any clients at the time. We didn't have anyone that we were doing work for. The goal was to get clients, but we needed to build up a brand. And so we didn't call it Kanga Communication at the time. It wasn't called Kanga. It was just the social media lab or the social media agency. And students came up with the logo, they came up with the name, and they really helped, drive that first year. And it wasn't until the start of the second year that we actually had clients. So our first client that we had was Access, which is a local women's shelter here in Akron. So we manage all of their social media. So anything that's posted on Facebook or tweeted out comes from students developing the content. And then when there's events or fundraising opportunities, we work with the client to create messaging and content specifically for that. And then the other, again, at the time was TEDx Akron. So TEDx, everyone knows what TEDx is. It's the local TED, events that take place in a local market or a university. And so we started doing all the social media for TEDx Akron, keeping up engagement, focusing on content related to Akron and what TED stands for. And so when there is an event, we'll have a bigger audience, so to speak, to promote the TEDx Akron event. In the meantime, we've now also taken on TEDx U Akron. Matter of fact, they had an event back earlier this month. It was a salon, what they call their salon event. And it was about biomimicry. And we did all the content leading up to the event with the objective of ticket sales. And so we did all the content and promotion in advance, and then we live tweeted during the event. So again, this is students doing the work. They're executing the campaign. So all of the fruit of their labor, so to speak, is being visible. But they also know if it works or not. And learning, knowing that something doesn't work can be just as valuable if something does work.
It's just like we were talking about earlier, the hands-on experience means all the difference, especially for students, because I hear a lot of the same things, which is, I wish I would have known that, or I wish they would have taught me this by doing as opposed to by just preaching, that they can actually get their hands on. And it's a great step forward for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's where it's going. I mean, there's always going to be a place for, the lecture, the book learning, because it helps form those foundations. We talked about the importance of the strategy. I mean, you got to learn the theories before you can understand and create strategy. But nonetheless, there is going to be that need for the hands-on. I mean, if you think about it, the importance of experiential learning, getting my hands dirty, doing something that takes into consideration everything that I've learned in my classes. And that's the vision of the Taylor family. Hey, let's create these labs. And I can't forget Dr. Dale Lewison. He was the original executive director. I mean, they're the ones that created this. With the ultimate, this is the experience I gained. So when they go into a job interview, they have a story. What's the story? What are you going to tell when you sit across from someone in an interview when they ask, so what did you do in college? If you can say, hey, I managed social media for TEDx Akron. We did live tweeting at this event. We used these tools. This is the reach that we got. These are the number of impressions and engagement. You start talking like that, that's definitely better than someone that said, well, I did really well on a test. Well, that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the Institute, I mean, we really feel like we're giving students really a good head start in that object to get a job when they graduate.
Yeah, like Patrick said, I hear about it, and it's one of those things I say to myself, I wish I had that. Jumping back I want to go back to Kanga real quick. I've got two questions for you. The first question is sort of, where did the Kanga name come from? You talked about students developing the brand and stuff. Where did that come from?
So, University of Akron, Zippy the kangaroo is our mascot. So kangaroo is something on campus. And so that's where we came up with that. We wanted to pay homage to the university. So that's where the name Kanga Communication came from.
It's good. It's unique. I like it. And the second part of my question is, what are some of the key areas of social media you're focusing on, whether you're working with clients, if it's specific social networks, or what are you teaching most about social media? What facets?
Yeah, I think absolutely. So really I think the big thing we're doing is content creation. So working with the client to determine what their content needs are. So some sort of content strategy. And all three of the clients we have, so be it Access, TEDx Akron or TEDx U Akron, they're really operating in two different channels, either Facebook or Twitter. And so it's coming up with content for those particular channels. It's developing strategy, specifically a content strategy, and then executing that strategy. That's what we're working on right now, and the students enjoy it. They'll be able to tell that story and list it as a skill that they have when it comes to a job interview.
So, Jacob, can you tell our listeners where they can learn more about the Taylor Institute or connect with you on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, first off, our website is thetaylorinstitute.org. So that's our website. And then you can follow us on in Twitter at Taylor INST. And then we also have KangaCom, that's KangaComm. And then we also have our analytics. So we also have a Twitter profile there. So that's Taylor INST Labs. And then we also have a Facebook, so you can follow us on Facebook. And we're also in LinkedIn. So we're in all those channels. And then one thing, I don't know if you guys let me plug something really quick. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
If I can plug? We have an event coming up in June 10th to be exact, called Interaction. It's a half-day event. Goes from basically 12:30 to 4:30 with a reception after. So we bring in speakers from across the country, and we focus on a theme every year. So the theme this year is on direct marketing to millennials. So our speakers are from companies that have had success with marketing to millennials. We have 3 keynote speakers. Our first one is Mr. Fred Neal. He's from Amazon, and Amazon was rated as the #1 brand for millennials. You can find out more information, again, following us on social media, or if you go to our website. And so it's a great event. We have students there, but it's mainly geared towards professionals. So it's not something that is uniquely for students. We do invite students because we want them, again, as I mentioned at the very, very beginning of this, is we want them to interact and to network with professionals. So we'll have students, but it's mainly geared towards professionals.
Thanks, Jacob. I appreciate you coming on the show today. And again, it's always a pleasure to talk with you a little bit about what's going on at the Taylor Institute. And just in general, marketing's a fun topic and something that we obviously love to talk about. So coming on Speaking Human, it's been enjoyable having you here.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. I appreciate being able to tell our story, but also just the relationship we have with you guys. I know, as you mentioned, Patrick, you've been down here a number of times on campus. We really love it when successful professionals in the area are willing to come and give back. And students love it. I mean, they love hearing from faculty, but it's great to have people come in and talk about their experience, especially those that are doing what they're studying. And then also those, I know, Patrick, you went to school here at the University of Akron. It's great to see people that went to the University of Akron being successful. They love to see that, and it's a great opportunity. So I appreciate the support that you give, above just the opportunity to share our story today. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, that's it for this special interview episode of Speaking Human. Remember, you can find past episodes of the podcast at speakinghuman.com or in the iTunes store.
If you have any questions about today's interview or any questions you want to ask Jacob, feel free to email us at feedback@thinkmonsters.com. That's feedback@thinkmonsters.com. Catch you next time, humans.
Speaking Human.